Reigning two-division champion Islam Makhachev admits that while winning a second UFC title was a historic accomplishment, it simply didn't compare to the emotion he felt the first time he captured gold. Makachev first became lightweight champion at UFC 280, where he faced former champion Charles Oliveira. In one of the biggest moments of his career, the Russian star dropped Oliveira before securing a tight arm triangle choke that forced the Brazilian to tap. That victory crowned him the 155-pound king and fulfilled a lifelong dream. According to Makachev, nothing can replicate that feeling. Reflecting on the moment in a recent interview with Arena Fight TV, he described the emotional weight of finally becoming champion after years of sacrifice and preparation. "I remember the emotion I had when Charles Oliveira tapped. It's crazy. It's the moment when you understand, well done, everything is finished. How many years you spent, did everything right to become a UFC champion. It's there. It's the moment. It's the emotion that I think I never felt before and I am never going to feel again." After 4 successful lightweight title defenses, Makachev decided in 2025 to chase greater history by moving up to welterweight. He challenged then-champion Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 322 in his divisional debut. The fight showcased Makhachev's elite grappling once again. Over 5 rounds, he controlled the action with his superior ground game, neutralizing Della Maddalena's striking and cruising to a dominant, unanimous decision. With the victory, he joined the exclusive list of UFC fighters to win titles in 2 different weight classes. Yet, even with 2 belts on his shoulders, the moment didn't carry the same emotional impact. "When I become double champ, same thing. It's not the same," he admitted. "The first belt is the biggest thing for my life." Now competing at 170 pounds, Makhachev has also noted that life is physically easier without the brutal weight cuts required at lightweight. That could mean a more active schedule moving forward. He is expected to make his first welterweight title defense after Ramadan and has already voiced interest in competing on the proposed UFC White House card. Most recently, Makhachev suggested he would be open to facing rising star El Matador on June 14th if the UFC approves the matchup, signaling that he's eager to test himself against new challenges in his second division. While the accolades continue to grow, Makhachev's words highlight a truth many champions echo. The first climb to the summit, the years of work culminating in that breakthrough moment, is often impossible to top, no matter how much more history is made afterward.
Tensions are building between rising middleweight contender Bo Nickal and former interim welterweight champion Colby Covington, and Nickal is making it clear he wants to settle things inside the octagon, ideally on one of the biggest stages possible. The friction stems from comments Covington made earlier this year at the RAF 05 press conference, where he took verbal shots at Nickal. Since then, Nickal has been pushing for a fight, even suggesting the two square off on the rumored White House card, an event that has been floated as part of America's 250th birthday celebrations. For Nickal, it's simple. Covington talked, now he should back it up. But Covington appears to have other plans. At one point, Chaos teased the idea of moving up to middleweight for his next bout, which naturally caught Nickal's attention. The decorated wrestler welcomed the idea and publicly expressed interest in fighting him at 185 pounds. However, Covington's latest comments suggest he may be staying at welterweight after all. In a recent interview with Valuetainment, the 37-year-old revealed he's in negotiations with the UFC to compete on the White House card. But instead of calling for Nickal, he set his sights on lightweight star Paddy Pimblett. "I would really like to fight Paddy Pimblett. He had shown interest that he might want to come up a weight class to welterweight. He's cutting a lot of weight to get to 155. The kid weighs 200. He looks like shit. Even the doctors told him, dude, your organs are gonna fail if you keep cutting to lightweight. I love that fight. Plus, it's an American versus a British guy. I don't want to fight an American guy on the 250th birthday of America." The comments raised eyebrows, especially given Covington's previous middleweight hints. Instead of pursuing a fresh challenge at 185, he now appears focused on drawing Pimblett up a division for a high-profile transatlantic showdown. Nickal didn't take long to respond. After hearing Covington pivot toward Pimblett, Nickal accused him of ducking the matchup. Taking to social media, he fired back. "Colby talks crap about me, then says he wants to move to 185. I say, okay, let's fight at the White House. Now he's trying to run away. What a wimp. Man up and take your beating." For Nickal, the issue isn't just about rankings or divisions, it's about accountability. If Covington is going to call him out publicly, Nickal believes he should be willing to follow through. From a stylistic standpoint, the matchup would also be compelling. Two accomplished wrestlers with strong personalities and very different public images. Covington, meanwhile, seems more interested in the spectacle of facing Pimblett. A fight between him and the outspoken Liverpoolian would certainly generate headlines, particularly on a patriotic-themed American card. But it would also require Pimblett to move up to welterweight, a significant jump, even if weight cutting has been a long-running talking point in Pimblett's career. As it stands, no official bouts have been announced for the White House event, and negotiations are reportedly ongoing. Whether Covington ends up facing Pimblett, Nickal, or someone else entirely remains to be seen. One thing is clear, Bo Nickal isn't letting the comments slide. If Covington truly wants to test himself at middleweight, Nickal is more than ready to welcome him, and he's not shy about saying so.
Former middleweight champion Sean Strickland is just days away from a pivotal showdown as he prepares to headline UFC Fight Night 267 in Houston against surging contender Anthony Hernandez. For Tarzan, the stakes are clear. A statement win could push him right back into title contention at 185 pounds. Strickland enters the bout coming off a loss to Dricus du Plessis at UFC 312. He originally dropped his belt to du Plessis at UFC 297, then worked his way back into the title picture with a gritty win over Paulo Costa to earn a rematch. However, the second encounter didn't go his way, leaving him once again climbing the ladder in a stacked middleweight division. Yet, as much as this fight matters competitively, Strickland has also been candid about something bigger looming in his mind: retirement. Speaking to ESPN during a recent training session, Strickland revealed he doesn't envision a long runway left in the sport. I mean, Volk just won. What is Volk? 37? 38? I love fighting. It's kinda hard. Like, what would I do? I'm turning 35, and I would say I have 3 years in me, and that's a lot of fights. Strickland turns 35 on February 27th, just days after the Houston main event. While many fighters shy away from putting a timeline on their careers, he appears unusually pragmatic about it. He even acknowledged that financially, he doesn't have to keep fighting. "I could probably retire now if I wanted to. I'm smart with my finances, but what do you do all day? Just wake up?" It's a sentiment that echoes through combat sports, the internal battle between financial security and identity. For many fighters, the octagon isn't just a job, it's structure, purpose, and meaning. Walking away can be far more complicated than simply closing a chapter. Despite contemplating longevity, Strickland hasn't softened his edge. In fact, he's turned his attention toward reigning champion Khamzat Chimaev, criticizing what he sees as inactivity at the top of the division. "It's kinda weird what the UFC did with Khamzat," Strickland told ESPN MMA. "You brought a guy in that fights once a year who's like Madonna. The guy doesn't need to fight. Dude gets gifted G-Wagons. So you have somebody who is just going to sit on a belt and wait until they force him to fight." Strickland didn't stop there, questioning why contenders should sit idle waiting for a title opportunity that may not materialize anytime soon. "We're in here to make money, and I'll make significantly more money not fighting for a belt or waiting for Khamzat's pinky to feel better. It's like every time this guy fights, he has a mysterious injury. Why wait?" Rather than positioning himself for a single win and holding out for a championship opportunity, Strickland seems intent on staying active. For him, momentum and paydays matter more than playing the long waiting game.
That mindset makes the Hernandez fight even more significant. A win keeps him relevant in the title race. A loss could force difficult conversations about that 3-year timeline he's already begun to outline. In Houston, Strickland isn't just fighting a dangerous opponent, he's fighting for positioning, purpose, and perhaps clarity about how much longer he wants to keep stepping into the cage.
Mackenzie Dern is set to defend her title against Zhang Weili at UFC White House. It's a blockbuster championship clash that brings together two of the most dangerous and accomplished fighters in women's MMA. Dern's world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu and ever-improving striking will be tested against Zhang's explosive power, relentless pressure, and championship experience on the biggest stage imaginable. USA versus China. Grappler versus powerhouse. Technique versus ferocity. If this matchup headlines the historic White House card, it instantly becomes one of the most high-profile women's title fights in UFC history. Expect fireworks. Reigning UFC light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira has once again fueled speculation about a move to heavyweight, reviving talk of a potential third divisional run. The Brazilian knockout artist recently posted a cryptic message on social media, 1, 2, 3, and go, and fans quickly interpreted it as a signal that a long-discussed jump to 265 pounds may finally be on the horizon. Pereira's ambitions come on the heels of a dominant second stint at 205 pounds. In October 2025, he faced Magomed Ankalaev in an immediate rematch and reclaimed the light heavyweight title with another composed, striking-heavy performance. The victory reinforced his reputation as one of the most dangerous and marketable champions in the sport, further solidifying his standing as a pound-for-pound elite. Already a former middleweight champion, Pereira has accomplished what few fighters ever manage, capturing UFC titles in 2 different weight classes. A successful move to heavyweight would give him the opportunity to pursue an unprecedented third championship, a feat that would place him in exceptionally rare company in MMA history. Achieving titles at middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight would not only redefine his own legacy, but also reshape conversations about all-time greatness. Shortly after reclaiming the 205-pound belt, Pereira publicly called for a super fight against former heavyweight champion Jon Jones, widely regarded as one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time. However, Jones's subsequent retirement dramatically altered the landscape of the division. Without that marquee matchup available, the heavyweight title picture has entered a period of transition, one that could present Pereira with new opportunities. At light heavyweight, Pereira's options are beginning to thin from a promotional standpoint. Rising contender Carlos Ulberg has surged up the rankings on the strength of a 9-fight streak and is viewed as a legitimate threat. Still, while competitive, that matchup lacks the blockbuster aura typically associated with Pereira's high-profile fights. As one of the UFC's most recognizable global stars, Pereira appears increasingly interested in legacy-defining spectacles rather than routine title defenses. Meanwhile, the heavyweight division is currently centered around champion Tom Aspinall, who is recovering from a serious eye injury. His uncertain timeline has fueled speculation that the UFC could introduce an interim heavyweight title bout to keep the division moving. That possibility has only intensified chatter about Pereira's next move. One particularly intriguing scenario being discussed among fans is a showdown between Pereira and former interim title challenger Cyril Gane. A clash between Pereira's devastating kickboxing and Gane's technical striking would immediately rank among the most compelling heavyweight matchups available. It would also provide Pereira with a direct pathway to a title opportunity in a new division. Former UFC middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis is determined to reclaim the title he lost in 2025 and has now revealed when fans can expect his return to the octagon. Du Plessis dropped the 185-pound championship to Khamzat Chimaev at UFC 319 in a bout that was dominated by Khamzat's relentless wrestling. Boers secured over 21 minutes of control time and completed 12 takedowns, neutralizing the South African's offense en route to a one-sided decision victory. It was a clear stylistic defeat, and one that du Plessis has spent the past 6 months reflecting on. Now, Stillknox says he's ready to begin the climb back. Speaking to Fight Forecast, du Plessis confirmed he's targeting a return in April at UFC 327, even though no opponent or contract has been finalized. "I'll be ready for April. There's no opponent yet, there's no contract yet. Whoever, let's go. I'm ready to go again and get back to my belt as soon as possible. It doesn't really matter who it is, but of course I'd love for it to be Khamzat and redeem that loss. For me right now, the next fight is the most important fight of my life, and I will win that fight, and I will get my belt back." While he's open to facing anyone, du Plessis hasn't hidden his desire to run it back with Khamzat. He understands exactly what went wrong in their first meeting and admits that the outcome won't change unless he makes significant adjustments to his takedown defense and overall approach. "Fighting Khamzat again is what I'm after. Expecting any surprises? No, there's not going to be any surprises. That is the way he's going to fight, and if he tries anything different, it will be a terrible night. He did what he had to do to win that belt. We can't hate on him for that. Now it's my responsibility to go and fix that, to stop him from doing that again and get him to fight my fight. My responsibility is to stop him from doing that, and that's what I will do." Meanwhile, Khamzat is expected to make his first title defense after Ramadan 2026, likely against number 2 ranked contender Nassourdine Imavov. Beyond that, the champion has repeatedly expressed interest in moving up to challenge light heavyweight king Alex Pereira in pursuit of 2-division status. That uncertainty at the top could complicate du Plessis' immediate rematch hopes. Still, the former champion remains confident that gold will be back around his waist before long. "I'll have my belt back before the end of this year." Whether that path runs directly through Khamzat or requires another statement win first, du Plessis appears laser-focused on redemption and fully aware that correcting the mistakes from UFC 319 will define the next chapter of his career. ESPN and One Championship have officially announced a multi-year exclusive broadcast agreement that will bring One's full slate of events to audiences across Australia and New Zealand. Under the deal, ESPN becomes the sole broadcaster of One Championship in the region, excluding select pay-per-view offerings. The partnership launches with One Fight Night 40 on Saturday, February 14th at 1 p.m. AEDT, live from Bangkok's iconic Lumpini Stadium. ESPN will air all One events live across its distribution network, including Disney+, Foxtel, Kayo Sports, Fetch TV, and Sky NZ. The agreement covers flagship numbered events, monthly One Fight Night cards, and the weekly One Friday Fight series, providing consistent year-round content. One Championship continues to distinguish itself with elite competition across multiple combat sports disciplines. The promotion features MMA, Muay Thai, kickboxing, and submission grappling, showcasing athletes from more than 80 countries. For fans in Australia and New Zealand, this deal opens the door to world-class martial arts action, spanning a diverse range of fighting styles and rule sets. The debut broadcast is headlined by a championship doubleheader. One women's strawweight kickboxing world champion, Jackie Buntan, defends her title against one women's strawweight Muay Thai world champion, Stella Hemmetsberger, in a compelling rematch between two elite strikers. In the co-main event, Shadow Singha Wan faces Nico Carrillo for the interim featherweight Muay Thai world title, adding further stakes to an already stacked card. Beyond the title fights, One Fight Night 40 offers significant depth.
Former one flyweight MMA world title challenger Danny Kingad returns to face Chinese contender Hu Yang in a pivotal flyweight bout. Japanese grappling standout Shozo Isojima takes on 19-year-old rising prospect Adrian Lee in a lightweight MMA matchup that promises high-paced action. Submission grappling also features prominently, with IBJJF world champions Fabricio Andrade and João Mendes squaring off in a technical showcase of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the highest level. The striking lineup is rounded out by a flyweight Muay Thai clash between Black Panther and Diego Paez, a matchup expected to deliver aggressive exchanges and non-stop pace. For fight fans across Australia and New Zealand, this agreement ensures comprehensive access to One Championship's global roster and consistent premium martial arts programming. The partnership begins this weekend with a championship-filled card from one of Thailand's most historic venues, signaling a major expansion of One's footprint in the Oceania market. Tom Aspinall is still grappling with the aftermath of UFC 321, and what initially looked like a frustrating no contest has turned into a prolonged and deeply disruptive chapter in his career. After being poked in both eyes during his fight with Cyril Gane in October, Aspinall was unable to continue. At the time, many assumed it was simply an unfortunate ending to a high-stakes bout, but the damage turned out to be far more serious than anyone expected. In the months since, Aspinall has been dealing with a troubling list of symptoms that have affected both his professional life and his day-to-day routine. He has struggled to track moving objects, experienced dizzy spells when changing direction suddenly, dealt with double vision, and noticed a persistent black spot in his field of view. Even using his phone for extended periods reportedly aggravates the pain. These aren't minor inconveniences for a heavyweight fighter. They're debilitating issues for someone whose livelihood depends on timing, reflexes, and spatial awareness. 4 months removed from the fight, the problems had not resolved on their own, leading Aspinall to undergo double eye surgery. The recovery process has been demanding. In the early stages, he has been using 32 eye drops per day as part of a strict post-surgery treatment plan. It's a physically and mentally draining situation for a 32-year-old champion who was previously riding momentum at the top of the division. The impact extends beyond the gym. Reports indicate he has had difficulty performing even basic drills in training. At times, sudden movements trigger vertigo. Tracking someone's hands during something as routine as a handshake can be challenging. He has needed help getting to and from places, and there have been moments when even playing with his children has been difficult. For a fighter who has built his identity around competition since childhood, being unable to train properly is more than just frustrating, it's disorienting. The incident has also reignited discussion around eye pokes in MMA and whether current glove design or enforcement is sufficient to prevent these kinds of outcomes. But while fans debate rule changes, Aspinall's focus remains much simpler: heal fully and get back to normal vision. There was additional noise surrounding his championship status when a rumor surfaced claiming he had requested his UFC release or had been pressured to vacate the heavyweight title. That speculation was quickly shut down, with clarification that no such conversations had taken place. As things stand, Aspinall remains the UFC heavyweight champion, just temporarily sidelined by circumstances beyond his control. For now, there's no clear timeline for his return. Everything depends on how well his eyes respond to surgery and whether his symptoms fully resolve. Until then, the heavyweight division remains in limbo, and one of its most explosive athletes is fighting a very different battle, one centered not on an opponent across the cage, but on restoring something far more fundamental: his sight.
Valter Walker isn't shy about chasing headlines, and now he's aiming them directly at his own family. Fresh off a quick submission win over Zion Clark at Karate Combat 59 in Miami, the Brazilian heavyweight immediately began campaigning for a fight with his older brother, Johnny Walker. What initially sounded like playful banter quickly turned into something that felt at least half serious, as Valter openly invited Johnny to move up to heavyweight for a potential showdown.
Johnny, who competes at light heavyweight in the UFC, is 6 years older and far more established on the global stage. But with inconsistent results at 205 pounds, Walter sees an opportunity, and he's not lacking confidence. In his post-fight interview, Walter claimed he had invited his brother to attend the Miami event, joking that Johnny didn't come because he needed permission from his wife. Then the tone shifted. "I want to crush him. I want to finish him off. I want to bring Johnny here and show him who the real Walker is." Karate Combat president Asim Zaidi even floated the idea of booking the brothers for an upcoming March event in Russia, but Walter made it clear he'd prefer the fight happen in the UFC. According to him, the promotion, the stage, and the money would make it worthwhile. "Show me the money, and I'll kill everyone and destroy everything. Come to the heavyweights, kid. I'll show you who the real heavyweight is." Whether it's genuine sibling rivalry or clever self-promotion, the call-out certainly grabbed attention. From a stylistic standpoint, it's an intriguing fantasy matchup. Walter has built recent momentum with 4 straight heel hook victories and appears to be hitting his stride at heavyweight. His grappling-heavy approach contrasts sharply with Johnny's explosive, unpredictable striking style. At 205 pounds, Johnny's athleticism and creativity have always been dangerous, but moving up to heavyweight would introduce questions about speed, durability, and power parity. For now, though, the matchup is purely hypothetical. Johnny is already scheduled to face Dominic Reyes at UFC 327 in Miami this April. Meanwhile, Walter is set to fight Marcin Tybura at UFC Seattle on March 28th. So, unless plans dramatically change, the Walker versus Walker showdown will have to wait. Still, if both brothers keep winning, and if the tension continues to bubble publicly, it's not impossible to imagine the UFC at least entertaining the idea. An unprecedented battle between siblings inside the octagon would be controversial, emotional, and undeniably compelling. For now, it's talk, but in MMA, talk has a funny way of turning into contracts.
After more than a decade competing at the highest level, Beneil Dariush is confronting the question every veteran eventually faces: how much is left in the tank? Since debuting in the UFC in 2014, Dariush has built a 17-7-1 record inside the octagon, sharing the cage with elite names such as Charles Oliveira and Tony Ferguson. For years, he hovered near title contention in one of the sport's most unforgiving divisions. But momentum can shift quickly at lightweight, and lately it has. Dariush has lost 3 of his last 4 bouts, each by first-round knockout. The most recent setback came in brutal fashion against Benoit Saint-Denis at UFC 322, where a clean left hand ended the fight just 16 seconds into the opening round, one of the fastest knockouts in lightweight history. Losses happen in MMA, but when they stack up quickly, and especially by stoppage, the conversation inevitably turns toward durability, timing, and future plans. Speaking candidly about his situation, Dariush admitted he's taking things one fight at a time and doesn't know how many opportunities remain. It wasn't a retirement announcement, more an honest reflection from a 36-year-old who understands the miles on his body. He emphasized that he's still training hard and preparing seriously, but he's also thinking about life beyond active competition, whether that means coaching or staying involved in the sport in another capacity. The loss to Saint-Denis wasn't the only concern that week. Dariush also missed weight, coming in at 157.2 pounds and forfeited 20% of his purse. On its own, a weight miss isn't necessarily a career-defining moment. Combined with recent knockout losses, though, it adds another layer to an already complicated picture. Now the bigger question looms: is lightweight still the right home for him? Dariush has openly discussed the toll of the weight cut to 155 pounds. After undergoing a DEXA scan, he revealed he walks around in the mid-180s at roughly 10% body fat, a number that suggests a significant and potentially taxing cut. As fighters age, recovery becomes slower.
injuries linger longer, and harsh weight cuts can amplify both issues. Dariush has even wondered whether the drain to lightweights may be affecting his punch resistance. That has led him to consider a move to welterweight. A shift to 170 pounds wouldn't guarantee a resurgence. That division presents its own challenges, but it could allow him to compete in a healthier state, with less stress on his body. He's reportedly begun discussions and evaluations to determine whether staying at 155 pounds is still reasonable. This is the crossroads many longtime contenders reach. Stay put in a division that's only getting younger, faster, and more explosive, or change the equation and see if a fresh start can extend the run. There are no easy answers. For Dariush, it's about balancing competitive fire with long-term health. Whatever he ultimately decides, his legacy as a durable, high-level lightweight who consistently faced top-tier opposition is secure. The only question now is whether the next chapter unfolds at 155 pounds, at 170 pounds, or outside the cage entirely.
Former UFC middleweight champion Sean Strickland isn't known for praising opponents, but he's doing exactly that ahead of his showdown with Anthony Hernandez. The two collide in the main event of UFC Houston next weekend, in a fight that could have major implications for the 185-pound title picture. For Strickland, it's a crucial opportunity to rebound after losing his belt to Dricus du Plessis at UFC 312. For Hernandez, it's the biggest stage of his career, and a chance to extend a ferocious win streak against one of the division's most battle-tested names. While Strickland is famous for blunt trash talk and dismissive breakdowns of opponents, his tone has shifted when discussing Fluffy. Speaking to ESPN MMA, admitted Hernandez presents a uniquely grueling challenge. Fluffy is a hard fucking fight. Endless gas tank, he's beat some of my buddies. Yeah, it's gonna be a great fight. I can't wait. It's gonna be a miserable fight. That word, miserable, is telling. Hernandez has built his reputation on suffocating pace, relentless grappling, and draining top control. He doesn't just look to win rounds, he forces opponents into exhausting, grinding battles that test cardio and mental durability as much as skill. There's going to be a level of misery there that's hard to train for. It's hard to train for that kind of misery. You know it's going to be 4th round, 5th round, like fuck, 5 more minutes of this. That's how he's made his career, lying on guys, but it's hard. Strickland is no stranger to 5-round wars, but Hernandez's style presents a different kind of threat. Rather than striking exchanges at range, Fluffy thrives in chaos, clinches, scrambles, and prolonged grappling exchanges that sap energy minute by minute. The former champion is seeking his first win since defeating Paulo Costa at UFC 302. A victory over Hernandez would instantly reinsert him into the middleweight title conversation, especially as newly crowned champion Khamzat Chimaev awaits his first defense. But before he can think about gold again, Strickland knows he must endure what he expects to be the toughest test of his career. Not necessarily the most technical, not necessarily the most dangerous, but, in his own words, the most miserable. And that might be the hardest kind of fight to prepare for.
Arguably the biggest prospect in combat sports could be UFC-bound sooner rather than later. Olympic gold medalist Gable Steveson has officially committed himself to MMA, and there's growing belief that his transition to the octagon is only a matter of time. At just 25 years old, Steveson already possesses world-class athletic credentials. His elite wrestling base instantly makes him one of the most intriguing heavyweight prospects in years. Add in the fact that he's been sharpening his tools alongside John Jones, and the hype only intensifies. The idea of blending Olympic-level grappling with developing knockout power has fans and analysts alike speculating about how quickly he could climb the ladder. Steveson returns to action on February 19th when he faces Hugo Lizama at MFL 3 in Monterrey, Mexico. It'll be just his 3rd MMA bout, but he's already talking like someone with major plans for 2026. According to Steveson, the timing of a UFC move is largely in his hands. He's made it clear that when he feels perfect about the moment, he's ready to make the jump. And that perfect moment might not just include signing a contract, it could involve something even bigger. With the UFC planning a White House event later this year, Steveson believes a statement win could position him for a spot on that historic card. If he delivers another emphatic knockout, which would be his third in MMA competition, he plans to call his shot. Behind the scenes, communication with the UFC has reportedly been consistent. Steveson revealed that after each of his fights, there's been follow-up contact with the promotion through his management team. The messages, he says, have all been positive. That steady dialogue suggests the UFC is closely monitoring his development, even if they're allowing him to build experience outside the promotion first. Of course, questions remain. Dominant wrestling doesn't always guarantee immediate MMA success, especially in the heavyweight division, where one punch can change everything. But Steveson's athleticism, confidence, and high-level mentorship give him a ceiling that few prospects can match. If February 19th goes according to plan, particularly if it ends in another highlight reel finish, the momentum toward a UFC signing could become impossible to ignore. And if that happens, the heavyweight division may soon have one of its most decorated athletes stepping into the mix with serious expectations on his shoulders.